Alright, so in the previous video, we created the view for the conversation settings page. But in this video, we'll actually create the action for the logic for the conversation settings page. So let's go over to the code. And before we actually get into any code, open up the terminal, run npm run dev, and on a separate terminal instance, open the PocketBase folder and run /PocketBase serve. And once that's up and running, close the terminal and go to the page.server.ts file in the conversation ID folder. And then we're ready to jump into the code. So then below the send image function, let's just copy the send image function. And let's just paste it down here. And let's just close this right here, send image. So the first function we're gonna create is a leave conversation function. So all these functions are very similar to each other in the fact that they first validate the user, then they get the form data, then they create a try catch block, and then they catch for errors. Essentially, all we're doing is changing up the form data and changing up the action that we're doing. So they're very similar, so we can copy paste sometimes. But for the leave conversation, we're not gonna actually have any photo. We're gonna delete this. So instead of removing it all, we keep the conversation collection. We query this, we check the conversation. But instead of querying the conversation, we close this, we remove this right here, and we take this off again. And then we say const members is equal to conversation.members.filter member. So we're gonna make sure that the member is not actually us. So member does not actually equal to authModel.id. So then below this, we're gonna say if members.length is greater than 2, we're gonna say await locals.pocketbase admin dot collection. So we're gonna say conversations dot delete, and then we're gonna say conversation dot id, and then we're gonna do an early return. So then if it is less than 2, we remove the actual conversation, but if not, we just update it. And instead of updating it with the members, instead of updating with messages, we just say members right there, and that's perfect. Instead of redirecting back to the conversation ID, we just say slash. So then the next function we'll do is the delete conversation function. So let's create it right now. Let's copy down the leave conversation function. Let's close this one, and this one's gonna be delete conversation. So essentially, we're doing very similar things in the fact that we check the conversation, we check the auth model, but instead of checking the members, we do let is admin is equal to conversation.admins.includes authModel.id. So we check if the user is admin, and if they are, so actually if they're not admin, we throw new error saying that the user is not an admin. So then we update it by saying delete conversation, and then we don't pass in any function actually. So the next function we'll do is an edit conversation name function. So let's do that right now. Wait, let's make sure this is an equal sign. And in here, this isn't going to be a delete conversation function. This is going to be a edit conversation name function. Edit conversation name. So then in here, we're going to say const form data is equal to await request dot form data. And then we're going to say const name is equal to form data dot get name. So you can see that if we actually want to edit the conversation, we actually need to get something on the form data. So let's copy the validation right here. So essentially, most of the validation we do is very similar. And theoretically, I could have installed a package to do this for me, but I wanted to do this with the least amount of packages as possible to show you guys what it takes to actually build a real service with real functionality. So we edit this and we say, so then we say if conversation.name is equal to the name of that we're submitting, we throw the error that says that the conversation already has this name. So conversation name is the same. So then we check if is admin, and instead of deleting, we say update, and we give it an object, and we just specify the name. And right here below this, we don't actually redirect to slash. We want to redirect to params.conversationID. Oh, and right here in the leave conversation, the delete conversation functions, let's remove the request parameter. So then that's basically everything for this function. The next function we'll create is the remove message function. Oh, actually we already created it. We're gonna do the remove member function. So let's copy down the remove message. So in here, we rename this to remove member. So in the form data, we get the user ID. So we say user ID instead of name. And then we say let redirect home is equal to false. So then let's make sure to do some checks right here. So right here below the is admin, we remove this. If they're not admin, we say user is not an admin. So then we take off this is image check. So let's take this off. And below the is admin check, we just say let members is equal to conversation.members.filter. So we filter through the members. Then we say member does not equal to user ID. So now let's do some checks. We check if members.length is 1, else. And let's also do members. And let's do redirect home if the member's length is equal to 1. So we redirect home is equal to true. And instead of updating, we delete this conversation. So now, instead of redirecting straight to the conversation ID, we say if redirect home, throw redirect of 303 to slash. And the reason we do this variable check with the redirect home is because inside this try catch block, if I throw redirect, it won't actually throw redirect. It will just go to this catch block and throw the error. So we actually want to encapsulate the data for the redirection outside of the try catch block over here. So for the final function, let's copy down the remove member. And let's close this. And this is going to be add members. In the add members, we just get the form data. And then in the try block, we say const unparsed members is equal to form data dot get members. Then we check parsed members and parsed members. Then we take off this check, invalid members. So then below this check, we say const members is equal to json.parse parsed members. And then we check if the members is an array. And if it isn't an array, we say throw new error. Invalid members. Now we check if the members array actually has the right length. So if the length is greater than 3, we throw new error, because essentially if it's greater than 3, we already know that they're going over the limit of the conversation. So now we just throw an error saying invalid members. So below this, let's validate the members. So we say validate members. And this is going to be a string array. By the way, just to take off these errors, let's just remove this right here. So to validate the members, below this validate members array, we say for let member of members if type of member does not equal to string throw new error. So we have to check to see if the member actually is a valid member. So item invalid item in members array. And then we just say validated. Let's make sure we rename this to validated members. So validated members dot push member. So then we check the conversation. We check if the user is admin. Now we check to see if the amount of users is actually correct. So we say let too much members in total is equal to conversation dot members dot length is no plus validated members dot length is greater than 5. Let's make sure to say conversation. So then we say if too much conversation in total, we throw a new error saying that we can't have that much users in a single conversation. A conversation can have 5 members in total. Total right there. And then we say let duplicate member. So we check if a member is already added inside. Members dot reduce. Then we say previous, which is going to be a boolean, and we also say current. And now we say if the previous, return previous, or return conversation bang members dot includes current. So then we say false. So now if there is a duplicate member, we say if duplicate member, we throw a new error saying that we cannot add member because member is already in the conversation. So then below, we don't actually add the members just like that. We have to make sure to concatenate the previous members. So conversation dot members, and we say dot 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 validated members right there. Let's make sure to take this redirect home out of here. Below the conversation name, we have to create a new function called edit conversation photo right here. So then we get the photo like this. Photo, and we make sure that the photo is an instance of. So we say if not photo instance of file, we say invalid photo dot size. So photo dot size invalid photo. Then we take off this check right here. And instead of adding the name, we just edit the photo. And we can finally close this file. And let's open up the local host inside of our browser. Let's sign in. So we can say login, danny@email.com. Once we sign in, you can see, because I'm not a member, I can't actually edit what is inside the conversation, like the members or the name or the photo, but I could actually leave the conversation. Here you see it's deleted. But create a new conversation with my new member test. You see that I could edit members, delete conversation, change the name to whatever name. And you see it's changed. And I could choose an image. I could upload a file, submit, and you see it's edited. And we could change the name. We could edit members. We could take this guy off. But if I take him off, it's going to log us out. So let's create a new member. So let's go here to profile. Let's log out. Let's create a new name called test2. And the email is going to be test2@email.com. Test. So you see, now that if we log out using this one, and we log in using the Danny email, so we go to whatever name, we go here, we go edit members, we could add, and we could search for test2 right here, and let's add new member. Wait, and let's go back, and let's edit members. Wait, let's refresh just to see if the new member popped up. You see, I have both members here. So now I could delete conversation. I could add these 2 members. I could remove a member also. And that's all, and that's because I'm an admin. But I hope I served you value using this course. Thank you guys for watching.